The first time Adam heard the scratching, it was almost midnight. His wife was asleep beside him, breathing softly, and the house had fallen into that eerie, unsettling quiet you only notice when something breaks it. It came from the wall behind the headboard, slow, deliberate, almost like claws. He froze, listened, one scratch, then silence, then again, scritch, scritch, scritch. A cold shiver crawled up his spine. He sat up, staring at the wall in the dark. The old house creaked, as it always did. But this was different. And the strange part was, they didn't have a pet. Not anymore. Their dog, Milo, had passed away 2 years ago. A golden retriever with soulful eyes and a habit of scratching at doors when he needed to go out. But this wasn't the front door. This was inside the wall. Adam leaned closer, holding his breath. Nothing. He gently shook his wife. "Babe, did you hear that?" Rachel stirred, her face still half buried in the pillow. "Hear what?" He waited. The noise didn't come again. "Never mind," he whispered. "Just thought I heard something." He didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, the world was as normal as ever. Coffee brewing, sunlight pouring through the kitchen windows, and their 3-year-old son, Caleb, giggling while feeding cereal to his stuffed elephant. Adam tried to dismiss what he'd heard as just the house settling. Maybe a squirrel on the roof. Maybe something else. But that night, it returned. Scritch, scritch, scratch, more insistent this time, more frantic. He leapt out of bed and put his ear to the wall. It was coming from inside, not the attic, not the crawl space, the wall itself. "Something's in there," he muttered. Rachel sat up, now fully awake. "Is it a rat?" Adam shook his head slowly. "Too big." He paused. "Too rhythmic." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know." But he did know. He just didn't want to say it out loud. Because the scratching, it almost sounded like a pattern, like something or someone trying to communicate. Over the next week, things got worse. It started happening during the day, while Adam was in Zoom meetings, while Caleb napped. Always that same wall, always the same tempo. And sometimes, this part he couldn't explain, it almost sounded like breathing. He borrowed a stud finder and a thermal sensor from his brother. There were no pipes, no ducts, no heat signatures. Nothing. Just solid drywall and old wooden studs. But every night, the sound returned. And every night, it got a little louder, a little closer. Rachel finally called a pest control company. The guy came, knocked on the wall, ran his scanner, then scratched his head. "There's no sign of infestation, no droppings, no nesting. I'll set a trap just in case, but..." He shrugged. "If I didn't know better, I'd say you got a ghost rat." He laughed at his own joke. Adam didn't. That night, it escalated. Caleb screamed from his room. They both bolted in, hearts pounding. "What is it?" Rachel cried, flipping on the light. Caleb pointed at the wall beside his crib. "There's a puppy in the wall," he said, trembling. Adam's skin went cold. "What did you say, buddy?" "A puppy. I hear him crying. He wants to come out." He said it so innocently, so certainly. Adam turned to the wall. No scratches now, just silence. The next day, Adam went into full paranoia mode. He tore out a section of drywall in the master bedroom. Nothing. No pests, no wires, no space big enough for anything to crawl through. But he found something behind the insulation. A small wooden box, old, dust-covered, with tiny carved paw prints on the lid. He didn't tell Rachel, not yet. Inside the box was a worn leather collar, no tag, just a faded brass buckle. And the smell, like old fur and rain. He stared at it for a long time, then put it back and said nothing. That night, the scratching moved. It wasn't just in the bedroom anymore. It was in the hallway, then the kitchen, then Caleb's room. Adam sat outside his son's door all night, listening. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the scratching began again. But this time, Caleb was whispering to someone. The next morning, Rachel was livid. "This is enough, Adam. There's something wrong with this house," Adam agreed, but not in the way she thought. He decided to install a baby monitor with audio and night vision, not just in Caleb's room, but in the wall. He rigged a tiny mic between the studs behind the drywall. That night, they waited. He and Rachel sat in the living room with headphones on, listening. At first, nothing. Then, something. A low whimper, barely audible. Then scratching. Then a growl. Rachel yanked off the headphones. Nope, that is not a rat." Adam kept listening. Then, at 3:17 a.m., the sound changed. A voice, a child's voice. "I'm still here." Adam stopped breathing. It was Caleb's voice, but Caleb was fast asleep in his room, silent. Still, Adam ran upstairs, checked the monitor. Caleb was out cold. Then he looked at the waveform on the audio recording. The voice wasn't coming from Caleb's room. It was from inside the wall. The next day, Rachel took Caleb to her sister's. "We need space," she said. Adam didn't argue, because he needed space too. Space to tear this house apart if needed. He started in the attic, then the crawl space, then the basement, everywhere he could reach. And in the basement, behind the old fuse box, he found the hidden door. It was small, barely noticeable, covered in flaking paint and age. He pried it open. Inside was a narrow tunnel, just wide enough for a person to crawl. He grabbed a flashlight, crawled inside. The walls were rough, packed earth. The tunnel twisted, dropped, then opened into a tiny chamber. And in that chamber was a child's toy, a squeaky bone, chewed, covered in dust. Beside it, a set of small bones, animal, dog, and a collar with a name tag. Adam picked it up. It read, Buster. That night, he called the town library and started digging into the house's history. Turns out, in 1987, a boy named Jamie lived there, age 6. He disappeared under mysterious circumstances. No body was ever found. But his dog, a beagle named Buster, also vanished. Neighbors swore they heard crying in the walls for weeks. Eventually the house was sold, then sold again and again. Every family moved out within a year, until Adam and Rachel bought it. Now Adam couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't explain what was happening. Then came the final night. He returned to the house alone, sat in the dark with the headphones, waited. At 3:17 a.m., the sound came again, this time louder, clearer. A voice. "Help me. He locked me in here." Adam's heart nearly stopped. Another voice followed. "Don't be afraid." The second voice wasn't Caleb's, wasn't a child at all. It was Rachel's, but not the real Rachel, a mimic, a trap. Then scratching began, all around the room. Ceiling, floor, inside the walls. Adam turned to the wall behind him and saw it, a shadow moving behind the plaster, then 2 glowing eyes, low, canine, and then a snarl. When Rachel returned the next morning, the house was wide open, doors swinging. No sign of Adam, just his flashlight, his phone, and the collar labeled Buster sitting on the kitchen table. Rachel called the police. They found nothing. No Adam, no tunnel, no bones. Like it had never happened. Only one thing remained. Every night at 3:17 a.m., on the baby monitor in Caleb's new room at his aunt's house, A scratching sound plays for 11 seconds. Then a voice whispers, "I'm still here." The police didn't believe her. They searched the entire house, found no evidence of a hidden tunnel, no crawl space, no chamber, no remains. Nothing matched what Rachel had told them from Adam's journal and notes. Even the baby monitor file Adam had saved on his laptop mysteriously vanished, just blank static in its place. Rachel tried to explain what they were up against. They called it stress, trauma-induced delusions, grief hallucinations. The detective, a young guy with 2 white teeth and 2 tight gloves, gave her a look full of practiced pity and suggested therapy. But Rachel knew better. She felt it the moment she walked back into the house. The cold in the air, like breath on her neck. The way the lights flickered only when she stepped near certain walls. The way Caleb had started to speak to things that weren't there. "We can't stay here," she told her sister. But the problem was, they weren't at the house anymore. And yet, the scratching followed them. 3 nights after Adam vanished, Rachel was woken by Caleb screaming again. She raced into his room at her sister's house. He was on the floor, curled in a ball, crying into his arms. "Where is it, sweetheart? What did you see?" He pointed at the closet. It came from the wall again. But this time, it said your name. Rachel's skin prickled. That night, she sat up watching the baby monitor herself. She hadn't wanted to believe it. But now she had to. Exactly at 3:17 a.m., the screen blinked. Just once, the camera feed jittered. Then the scratching began. And then, the whisper. Clearer this time. "Rachel, I found a way out." Rachel gasped. The voice. She knew it. It was Adam. But that didn't make sense. If it was Adam, then why was Caleb so terrified? Why did the voice echo like it was coming from a tunnel deep in the earth? Why did it sound so hollow? She played the recording back, slowed it, enhanced the audio. She was a graphic designer, not an audio engineer, but she did what she could. There was something else layered under the voice, another whisper, fainter, inhuman. She looped it over and over until she finally caught the words. "He wears their skin." Her hands trembled. This wasn't Adam. Or if it was, something else was with him. Rachel needed help. Not police, not priests. Someone who believed in the unbelievable. She found him online. Gideon Ray, a reclusive paranormal archivist known for investigating unexplained disappearances and housebound hauntings. His blog had a buried entry from 1992 referencing the exact address of their home, entity latent in structure, presence tied to animal mimicry, avoid auditory contact. She called him. He answered on the first ring. "You're in the house with the dog." Her throat dried. "How do you know?" "Because I've been waiting 30 years for the scratching to start again." Gideon arrived that evening, old, wiry, and hollow-eyed. He brought strange equipment, an EMF detector, a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and a wooden box he wouldn't let her touch. "The entity is a mimic," he said as he worked. "Not a ghost, not a demon. It attaches itself to tragedy. It prefers children. But it always starts with the dog." Rachel's voice caught. There was a dog. Buster. He died with the boy, Jamie. Gideon nodded grimly. It used the dog's shape to lure Jamie into the walls. It mimicked his voice to silence him. He turned to Rachel. And now it's using Adam. That night, Gideon set up sensors all around Caleb's room. He forbade Rachel from interacting with the entity if it spoke. "No matter who it sounds like, don't answer. It feeds on acknowledgement." At 3:17 a.m., the room chilled to ice. The monitor flickered again. Then Adam's voice came. "Rachel, I'm in the dark. I can't get out. Why did you leave me?" Rachel clenched her fists. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Don't," Gideon whispered beside her. "It's not him." Then the voice changed. It became hers. "Gideon," the voice purred. "You couldn't save Jamie. You won't save this one." The EMF reader spiked. The lights burst. Caleb woke screaming. The walls trembled. The closet door slowly creaked open. And inside, not coats, but black, gaping tunnel walls. Gideon sprang into action. He pulled the wooden box open and revealed a series of old dog tags, rusted, worn, with names etched deeply. Buster, Maximum, or Toby. Others. "Each child taken," he said, voice grim, "was lured by a dog that never existed." He threw the tags into the tunnel. One by one, the scratching grew frantic. Claws against stone. A howl of rage and pain echoed from the walls, so loud it made Caleb cover his ears and scream. Then silence. Total, devastating silence. Gideon knelt by the closet tunnel and spoke into the dark. "Jamie, Buster, Adam, come back." Nothing. The next morning the tunnel was gone. The closet was just a closet, but Gideon wasn't smiling. "We've only sealed it, not destroyed it." Rachel nodded slowly. "So what now?" "We wait. We protect Caleb. And if the scratching ever returns," he paused, "we don't listen. Not ever again." Epilogue. 15 years later. Caleb is 18 now. He doesn't remember the voices, not clearly. But sometimes he dreams of dogs in the walls, of a man with his father's face, but empty eyes. Rachel never remarried. The house was sold. But 3 towns away, a new family moved into a fixer-upper. No pets, no kids, just the couple, trying to start fresh. One night, around 3:17 a.m., the husband nudged his wife awake. "Hey," he whispered. "Do you hear that?" She sat up, groggily. "What is it?" He frowned. "Scratching inside the wall, but we don't have a pet."